first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, appreciate you joining us. We are live streaming on Facebook, on YouTube, on our apps, and on our website. So lots of places to find this content every day starting at 1 p.m. But today we are talking about something historic that's happening in the city of Portland, and that is that the Portland Public Schools Teachers Union has gone on strike. We had thought this might be coming. The November 1st date was put out there, and it has now come to fruition that the teachers are on strike. And certainly if you're in the city of Portland and driving around, you've probably seen it in some way, shape, or form. That's a lot of teachers. That's a lot of students now out of school. And today we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be hearing from different sides on the situation of what's going on. And I really appreciate joining us right now, a Portland Public Schools chemistry teacher, Shannon Kittrick, joining me live from, I believe, outside Roosevelt High School, I believe is where you are. And Shannon, thank you very much for being here. And I think just to start off, on a personal level, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling scared. I'm also feeling activated. I'm feeling concerned, but mostly I want to change the story. I'm feeling like now is the time and that PPS teachers are standing up and with the community, and we are telling not only our district, but the governor, our legislators, that it's time to fund education.
And what are some of the biggest things that you feel were not being met with the previous contract that you'd like with the new contract?
The number one thing is class sizes. I know that the district is talking about average class sizes, which we all know how data can be skewed. You could have one class size of 12 and that will offset all the other class sizes. But I could speak personally that my class sizes are 30 in a chemistry class, and I have 180 students, which means just to give 5 minutes of feedback to my students, that's 15 hours of work. And I'm given a fraction of that to plan.
Would the ideal situation be more teachers, more teachers to spread that out? Would it be more classrooms? I guess what would the ideal situation be to resolve that issue?
We want class size caps and more planning time to meet the needs of our students.
And so far with those, clearly you're on strike, so there wasn't a meeting point, obviously. How far apart do you feel that you are with the school district on that situation?
As far apart as you can possibly be, because the district for the past 11 months has refused to even negotiate over class sizes.
Looking at it, from where you are with the students, I guess something that we've had other people ask, and this includes some of the teachers, or excuse me, some of the parents, is how does contact work with students while the strike is ongoing?
I believe our PPS emails are still open. The district hasn't closed those down, but what I can tell you is that I'm on the picket line with my students right now and their parents. I think that if a student reached out to a teacher, then we're always there for our students. They come first.
How long do you think that the strike will go on? I know that's a hard question to answer, but do you feel like there's something that could be resolved in a relatively short time, or could this go on for quite a while?
It depends. It depends if PPS looks at their budget and follows the state audit and reduces, basically find savings to direct in the classroom instead of administration. It depends on what support that we get from legislators. The one thing I do know is that teachers are ready to fight for the long haul. We want to change the story, and we want to change funding for education.
And and again, I realize this is a real intense situation that you're going through, so I don't want to ask too many questions on this, but I know that something with the students, another thing that parents have been asking is when it comes to college recommendations, is that something that they can still approach teachers for, or is that something that they're not allowed to do during this time?
Yeah. Absolutely. I can see the concern. This is what I do know. Right now, college applications are not due yet. It's the early college applications that are due. And this is one thing I do know is that teachers write college recommendations because we love our students. PPS doesn't provide planning nor extended hours for us to write them. So a teacher and a counselor could write up to 20 to 30 recommendations that take an hour a piece, and that is not paid, nor are we given time to do it. So I would guess, I know I've been writing them. I would say that teachers will do what they continue to do, is love their students and make sure that they have those recommendations.
When it comes to negotiations with the district, is there a plan to go back to the table at any point, or what would it take? And if not, what would it take for you to go back to the table to negotiate?
Yeah, I think that the whole go back to the table is something PPS has been saying, but PAT has not left the table. We are bargaining right now. We are waiting for them to essentially start bargaining in good faith and talk about the things that really matter to us, like class sizes, planning time.
Any other thing that you would like people to know, just about from your standpoint and while you're out there?
I would like to advocate for people to contact the governor, their legislators, and tell them to fund the quality education model. It's called the QEM. If we could get our largest corporations to pay taxes and fix the kicker, then we could fix education. The second thing I would like to see is the board of directors at Portland Public Schools to force PPS to follow the state audit. If we could follow the audit and we could use transparent budgeting in a way that we are able to benchmark our performance with other districts, that will really help us in our budgeting. But right now, for the audit, PPS does not budget that way. They use terms like support services that lump teachers with office administrators and counselors, and that's not an appropriate way to budget.
Well, Shannon, thank you very much. I think the final question I have is, you're out there right now. I believe I said at the top, I believe it's Roosevelt High School is where you are, and there's teachers at high schools and schools all over the Portland metro area. How long do you anticipate to be out there actually in person striking while this goes on?
We are striking in front of our home schools from 7:45 until 11 a.m. Then we have a short lunch and we come back at a central meeting location where everybody gets together at 12. So all day.
And are you anticipating that for every day from here on out?
Every single day.
All right. Well, Shannon, thank you very much. Appreciate your time here joining us to talk about this and providing your side to everybody out there who's watching this and understanding where you're coming from. Best of luck. And thank you very much for being here with us on Fox 12 Now. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, and there we go. So Shannon Kittrick, a chemistry teacher there for Portland Public Schools. So we're going to continue on this conversation and talking about what's going on. I did mention that we are live streaming on Facebook and YouTube, and I'm sure there's some comments that are coming through, but recapping some of the things that Shannon just mentioned, talking about wanting smaller class sizes, the amount of time that she's able to spend with all of her students is so minimal compared to the amount of students that are there, wanting to have, Portland Public Schools, again, from her perspective, paraphrasing some of that, but, to be held accountable for some of that and to find different ways to measure and be in lockstep with other districts. So a lot that we went through there. And if you'd like to go back and rewatch that, she certainly has all of her points laid out there. So they also said that they'll be out there protesting and picketing and on strike in perpetuity until something happens to be there. They did say that they are at the table willing to negotiate. So something else that we're going to have here on this episode is I also did speak to the Portland School District, and I spoke to Dr. Renard Adams about their standpoint and where they're at. This was a little bit earlier today, so this was previous to this interview. Dr. Renard Adams leads the Office of Research, Assessment, and Accountability for Portland Public Schools. And we're going to go ahead and play that interview, to bring the other side. As I mentioned, we're live right now, so drop in your comments, let us know. This is obviously a big issue for very, very, very many people and a historic day here in the city of Portland and for Portland Public Schools. But let's hear from Dr. Renard Adams right now. Dr. Adams, thank you very much for joining me here today on November 1st. Pretty historic day that's happening with the Portland Public Schools teachers going on strike, first time in history. And I appreciate you being here to hear the side of the school district on this. And I guess to start off, how are you feeling today?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity and always appreciate interacting with the media here in the Portland metro area. It's a sad day for me, if I'm being honest. This is my 7th experience with bargaining over my career, and the first time that it has not ended in a resolution or an agreement before strike came. So I think it's a pretty sad day for me as an educator, as a former special educator, as I think about our students not being with their trusted adults, not being in the care of their teachers and their educators and their principals at the moment.
What do you think is different about this particular situation compared to some of those other ones that you just mentioned that you experienced?
Well, I think there's a whole different tone and tenor to all things going on between labor and quote unquote management at the moment. I mean, we see it across the country in Oakland and San Francisco. We see it with the auto workers. There's just something different in this moment coming back from the pandemic where staff are understandably feeling tired and are tired of feeling tired about things, and they're feeling very resolute in the things that they want. And I think those are different, right? I think the other thing that's a little bit different for me is in my previous bargains, there was definitely a willingness on both sides to sort of try to meet in the middle and have a common understanding of the facts. And right now we don't have that. We have limited funds, and there's not an agreement on the funding and how much we have and how much we can spend. So that, in my opinion, has made it challenging for us to meet in the middle and compromise together with the Association of Teachers.
And it does, obviously it went to a strike, so it sounds like, that wasn't something that was a possibility to meet in that middle. Did you feel like there was a moment where that was close to happening, or was it just far apart the entire time?
I appreciate the question. We're far apart, especially on things like compensation. We've made 4 moves on compensation. Our most recent offer is 4.5% in the first year of the contract. The association has stayed at their first proposal since January, and they haven't moved on compensation. And so that makes it hard to compromise when we're basically bargaining against ourselves, increasing our offer over multiple times, and they're not meeting us and seeing that as anything that's acceptable to them.
Do you think there's any hope of reaching a compromise on this? Is there more money, or do you hope that they will come to the table on their side? Do you see any, path forward right now?
Well, I'm ever the optimist. And so as I've liked to say, or want to say, it is not a matter of if we'll settle with an agreement, it's a matter of when. And we want the win to be as soon as possible for our students, our families, our educators, and everyone involved in the educational experience here in Portland Public Schools. It's really a challenge to have school closures again so close to coming back from the pandemic.
And a couple of questions about that, about the school closure side of things. These students are out right now. How are you accommodating those missing school days? Is this eating up snow days? Are these days that could be tacked on at the end when negotiations do finally come to a close? How does that work for all those parents out there?
That's a great question. And so I don't have a great answer at the moment because it's unknown. We don't know what we'll have to do to the school calendar and won't know until the strike is settled and educators are back at work. And so we don't know if this is going to be a 1-day strike or a 3-week strike. And until we know that, we won't be able to really give a clear answer on that. So we appreciate everyone's understanding at this time. We are ready and willing to be at the bargaining table, work days, weekends, morning and night to try to get this thing settled and get our back into schools.
There was a public, note from Governor Kotek asking both sides to stay at the table and to negotiate. One question that has been brought up is, do you think there's a possibility of state money coming in to fill in some of these gaps during the negotiations?
So first and foremost, I want to thank Governor Kotek. She reached out personally to Superintendent Guerrero yesterday and to the president of the Association of Teachers. She called them both and had conversations, and she also sent her state mediator up to meet with both of our mediation groups. And so I'm thankful for that. I can only go by what the governor has said publicly, and what she has said publicly, as I recall, is that there would not be new funding for this biennium, and we would have to wait until the next biennium. So we're going to work within the resources that we have at the moment, knowing that our resources have only increased at a rate of 9% while inflation has been 18%. So while we're not receiving as much revenue as we need to keep up with expenses, we're going to work within that. The challenge that we have is the proposal we have on the table right now will require immediate budget cuts this year and beyond. And so we know that every dollar we give above that will require deeper and deeper cuts. And when 90% of your funding goes into buildings and schools, and over 80% of your funding is for people, it's hard to not have budget cuts impact classrooms and schools. And we're trying to avoid that as much as possible.
I'm looking at something that I saw that you posted on Twitter. You said meeting the union's demands would require cutting the equivalent of 288 teachers. So is that right now, even with the proposal, would that require cutting into that 288 teachers? Would that require cutting teachers with what you're proposing?
So I appreciate that. First, I want to clarify that wasn't our analysis, but was an independent analysis that was done by a third party working with one of the other news organizations in the area. And I wanted to just put that out there because the question I've been getting asked on Twitter by families and people who are interested is, can you concretize what cuts you're talking about? And that was the first time we concretized it. Internally, we're looking at central office efficiencies. We're looking at all options on the table, but we won't know exactly where we'll have to trim our budget and make cuts until we know where the contract settles and what dollar amount we're working with in terms of compensation, class size, caps, planning time. All of those things cost money.
Well, Dr. Thank you very much for joining me here. I guess my final question is, if you had something to say directly to the teachers who are on strike, is there any kind of message you would like to send them?
I appreciate the opportunity to do that. One, I want to say that, I began my career as a one-to-one aide, became an educational assistant, and then became a middle school special education teacher. So I've done my fair share of classroom work, and it was hard when I did it, and I understand that it's harder now. I cannot value our teachers enough. There is no amount, I would give them the world if I could and if I had unlimited resources. And right now we don't have that. And so we want to find a way to work within our means to reach a contract that honors them, that compensates them more, and gives them some of the resources they've been asking for. And so what I can offer is a district commitment to be at the table with your leadership, to come to a resolution and a compromise that gets teachers back into their classrooms and students back in schools.
Doctor, thank you very much for taking some time to speak with me here on Fox 12 Now. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate your time during this pretty busy time that you have.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. You have a great day.
All right, so there we go. That was obviously pre-recorded here earlier this morning, but hearing from the district side about their stance on the ongoing strike. So just to recap everything, in case you haven't noticed, today the Portland Public Schools Teachers Union went on strike. They are striking at pretty much every school here in the Portland area, and they intend to stay on strike until the negotiations are met, until they come to some kind of a compromise or some kind of a contract that they feel satisfied with. The school district also saying the same thing on their side. The takeaway, I would say, from speaking to both Shannon Kittrick, who's the chemistry teacher protesting out there at Roosevelt High School, or striking rather, and from Dr. Renard Adams, is that both sides seem to be pretty far apart. That was pretty evident just by their words, by what they were talking about. And if you're just tuning in, I would recommend going back and watching this entire segment here, because we had both of them on, hearing both sides. But the general takeaway seems to be that they do not seem to be certainly on the same page. I mean, it's evident that they're striking, but it seems like it's far apart. Who knows, maybe there's more to the story, but that's certainly something that we'll dig into and see if we can find out. But that was at least the facing information there that we got from those interviews. So if you have comments, and I see comments coming through, people have a lot of opinions. Obviously, this is this is an issue for everybody from both sides. It's an emotional issue. It's a big issue for a lot of people. So we will continue to cover it here and bring you this information and bring both sides of it as long as this goes on. And we don't know where that is. Neither side really seem to have an idea on when this could end. Something else that I did ask for you who are parents out there is, what happens to these days that are being missed for the students? Do they take away as snow days? Are they eating through those right now? Are there more days that are going to be added on at the end of the school year? The general answer is nobody knows. That was what was relayed to us, so it probably all depends on how long this goes on, but as of now, nobody knows what's going to happen with that, but these students are certainly out of school right now. We've got more info at kptv.com, so absolutely go there, and of course we'll be covering this on all of our other news programs later on throughout the day, and bringing you up-to-date information as soon as we can, so follow us there, watch the news shows, watch this. If there's more breaking news, I'll be back on for that. We will have some more programming coming up here later for Fox 12 Now, but we're going to go ahead and sign off for right now. So wherever you're watching, I thank you for doing that. Remember, you can always go and stream the show every weekday starting at 1 p.m. on our website, on our apps. Download the Fox 12 Oregon app, and of course on our social media channels. That's a great way to follow along. And we're going to regroup here for a few. We'll be back in a bit. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.